Welcome to Pricing College with your hosts, Joanna Wells
and Aidan Campbell.
Okay, so we've talked before about how products are actually getting smaller and yet the prices are roughly the same, if not increasing, for a smaller product. That's shrinkflation. And so today we'd like to focus in on more on whether people would actually pay more for a smaller product just because it's smaller. And we're just going to go into that using various examples of different sort of fMCG products, drinks, snacks, things like that.
Yeah, we're going to workshop that idea. Sorry, that just brings back bad memories from conferences. Okay, so I think like a classic example is, let's take soft drinks. You take very common soft drinks like Pepsi, Pepsi-Cola, Coca-Cola, and you go into a shop, the average supermarket, and this applies to Australia, but I'm sure it applies to many other countries. At the front of the store, you'll get a can or a 660 milliliter bottle, and it might be in Australia around the $3.50 mark. You know, it's refrigerated also, so that is a value add. You walk away from there and you go down into the shelves where they have the fizzy drinks. You'd probably get a 1.25 litre bottle, and it might be on promotion around $1.80 or $2, $2.50. But quite often then you'll even get a 2 litre bottle that might be cheaper than the 1.25 litre bottle. But both of those bottles will be cheaper than the smallest unit sold.
So what's going on there? I mean, it's sort of different variations on the theme of convenience. You've got the drinks, the smaller drinks in the fridge that are being chilled because people like that. Right at the counter, they're easy to take. It could be for people that are just walking in, just want a drink and they just want to walk out. They're possibly, the assumption here is that they could be willing to pay more for that can. But then you've also got the slightly bigger bottles of drink also in the fridge, slightly more, but not always are they more expensive than the small tin cans, because those tin cans have got smaller. The bottles are actually in some way bigger, and you get often the 20, buy more, buy one, get an extra one free offer going on with those bottles of water and Coca-Cola and things like that. But really, from what Aidan was saying, you walk back one or two aisles to, the major aisle, the food, drinks aisle, and you can just see like the price points are like everywhere. What is the distance between the price points of the refrigerated cans versus the refrigerated bottles of drinks versus the bigger non-refrigerated, just almost household good type drinks? I don't know if they are logical and whether they're really thought through.
I think there definitely is a sense of segmentation going on here. Clearly, the sort of people, I think consumption of large 2 litre, 3 litre bottles of fizzy drinks is definitely decreasing, given, I suppose, a number of reasons. I think you've got decreasing family size or household units, more people living alone, more awareness of health and not drinking bucket loads of fizzy drinks with sugar and high calories. So I think those things are decreasing. I think, people are probably segmenting into certain groups where you just want a little snack, an impulse purchase near the counter, and you'll go and buy, you'll buy a small can of drink because you don't feel bad about yourself, but you might feel bad if you buy a bigger one. So I can see that segmentation, that the larger bottles potentially, even though it's the same product, the same material in those bottles, it's actually big offer to a very different market. At the end of the day, there's not much point in buying a 3 litre bottle of Diet Coke if you're only going to drink a litre of it, or in that week, the rest would probably go flat or be left over. So you're segmenting by potentially family structures, household structures, and also where the person is. Are they walking home with their shopping? They don't want to carry a big bottle. There's a lot of those factors that go into it. Whether or not the shops really thought about them all, that's a different question.
Yeah, I suppose that's a question for the suppliers, the fMCG as well, to inform the supermarkets about, how consumers, the end consumer and shopper actually consumes these types of products. They're the ones that should be doing that sort of research and informing the supermarkets so they can in turn present a clearer strategy and pricing to the end consumer. But, from an end consumer perspective, it can be confusing, these price points. I mean, for instance, yes, usage, we know we would buy a bigger bottle of Coke or Pepsi if, for instance, we were having, a kids' party. Then, it makes sense to buy bulk. But a confusing promotion I saw, recently was between, Pepsi and Coca-Cola bottles. It just seems to oscillate between the two. If one's been promoted, the other one's not. Coke was promoted, and then the Pepsi was cheaper, and it just seems to be there's no sort of strategy there other than it's all about trade spend really. If one's pumping money into trade spend, then the retailer will promote that one and put the other one back on full price, hoping that people will grab the promoted goods. I mean, that in turn just completely destroys any sort of value-based or consumer-led strategy, because they're just going on impulse buy based on price. But whether the price, they really are recouping the money from that promotion, looking at the stats, and even people grabbing the items, I would say people still prefer to go for the one that they like. It could be in the taste, it could be, just because they trust it. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, 9 out of 10 cats prefer Pepsi Cola, but apparently, at first taste, that was a famous example. Not cats, human beings.
Apparently, it was because it was more sugary or something
on the first sip. But we covered that in our other podcast on fizzy drinks. We don't. So what I would like to point out is I think there's a lot of value that can be added in pack sizes. Certainly, people on diets. Having that portion control, I think is the term used in the diet industry, knowing the size of the portion, the smaller can of fizzy drink, that treat size or fun size, which it used to be called, that really gives people to feel better about themselves. They're buying that smaller can. They're probably prepared to pay more because of the ancillary benefits to their self-esteem and, their mental approach to life. So I think I can understand, and I think to some extent, smaller package sizes that would be chocolate bars, fizzy drinks, those sort of things, as long as they give the calorie intake or the kilojoules intake, and people would, would pay more for that.
Well, I think, what I'd like to, I suppose, clarify here, I think that they would pay more than that, but that you need to have your promotional strategy clear as well. It can't confuse that strategy. If you're going for a pricing strategy based on usage, how people consume, how people, go through the supermarket and what they grab, you need to get your promotional strategy in line with that strategy. I suppose that.
Yeah, I've one point to add on this. This is something I had thought about. One industry where it is, it's bad for your health, it's got high sugar content, is the wine industry. And if you go into any bottle shop or off license, you will see it's pretty much the exact same bottle of wine size covering 95% throughout the shop, which is, I think it's like 750 milliliters is the global standard. You do get large bottles, more as like magnums and special promotional things, and you can sometimes get small ones. But I would say 90-something% of bottles sold are the standard bottle. Why is there not been, you look at the size of Coke cans, the size of those bottles, wine, to my mind, would be perfectly applicable to that. Certainly if a person lives alone, they say, I'll just have one glass of wine for dinner. Then you don't have that temptation with the second one. So it's in your calorie portion control. It takes the decision out of your hands. And this would even be more beneficial, I think, to people, because obviously, as we all know about wine, there's that slippery slope. You have one, and then the second one becomes more appealing. So, it's that's out there to the wine merchants of the world to give me an answer.
I think the same goes with chocolate. There's some real chocoholics out there. I question whether the reducing the size of a chocolate bar tends to only happen with value packs. When you look at chocolate bars, say at the counter, they're still the same size. So in relation to the argument about, the help reducing pack size purely for our health, I debate that because, the ones at the counter are still the same size. Single purchase ones are the same size. It's generally the value packs. So the value packs, who are they aimed for? Could be sort of a younger segment, children. I wonder whether it does actually control people's consumption of chocolate, or reduces the consumption of chocolate when you reduce the family value pack size. And wouldn't kids just eat more? From what I've seen, they just do eat more. And obesity levels are rising. So I actually think, you know, the value pack is very similar to, you know, just like almost like a selection box of chocolates. People are just eating more of them because they're smaller. It's almost the reverse psychology. Because they're smaller, I know it's smaller, I'm going to eat 3 times as much because that equals, you know, one normal chocolate bar. So I actually think it's increasing consumption of sugar.
One final point I'll make is that this is really a very modern problem. If you think back to what sweet shops, lolly shops, your local grocery store was 50, 60, 70 years ago, it was somebody with a white coat pouring things, weighing them on a weighing scale and giving you the exact weight that you wanted. So in theory, pack size is a modern issue created by modern supply chain and the supermarkets. Really, 50 years ago, you'd say, I want X amount of these sweets or these lollies, and it was would get it to the exact amount. So I think it's funny how things go in circles, and now we're probably moving back to some extent to that old deli style approach.
And also, if we're noticing, even if it's on a latent subconscious level, that things are getting smaller, what does that do to people? It breeds scarcity, it breeds a sense of loss. And so people then end up buying more of like say the chocolate, whatever it is, because they feel they're going to be missing out, they're going to be losing out if they don't. All the while the price point is the same for something that is shrinking, if not getting more expensive, and people are consuming more. So they're consuming more, there's a higher volume of that consumption, the price points are going up. So overall, just based on that sense of loss, not having it. So that could also be triggering the rising obesity levels as well.
Yeah, I've nothing really more to add. I think I'll leave it there. Have a great day.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Bye.